So I want to talk a little bit about format and delivery, because that may be the part of the talk that you really want to hear. Fortunately, the commitment has been made by Park and by Smarter Balance that the presentation of the assessment will be electronic. That's the good news, in my opinion. This should be good news. It's just that I don't have a clue how to do this. It has to be platform neutral. Fortunately, that's not part of my job description, so I don't have a clue how they're going to pull that off. But it means if you're not using computers and so on with your kids, they're going to have to get used to doing some of that. And they're going to be presented electronically even at the lower grade levels, I think. That's my understanding. You'll find out more about this as we go on today, because I'm not an expert in this. But that's our understanding. That's the premise under which we're working. And there will be 3 types of questions developed. Short answer tasks. This is the description in the current version of the Park framework. These can be answered in about 1 minute. Now, there were lots of questions about this at the last meeting. This is 1 minute with a kid who knows what he's doing, or somebody who's busy twisting his hair and picking his nose, or what is this 1 minute thing? But the idea is of kids relatively, that the task itself would not require that you spend longer than that. It can be answered on the computer. It will be rapidly and inexpensively machine scored. That is where the emphasis is going to be at the Dana Center of figuring this out. It will be right or wrong. It'll get 1 point or 0 points. That's a short answer task. I was about to say, but Max and the ISBE people may correct me later, that I think the summative assessment is going to be mostly short answer, if not all. It's all going to be electronically scored. Then there are scaffolded questions. Now, I'm assuming you know the difference. I mean, the last 2 types are scaffolded and unscaffolded. But the scaffolded are described in the following way. They consist of several short related tasks. And I think I've added this part. I don't think this is actually in there. That build in difficulty. I mean, they're not just random little things. They're mostly, if any of you have seen the problem balanced assessment project kinds of things, these are problems that originated with Hugh Burkhardt out of England, and they're fabulous problems. They're great problems. The linear equation problems in there, I just love. Shopping carts and that kind of thing, where you have a constant and then you add variable numbers of shopping carts. Anyway, you have on your resource guide a site for the Mars project, and I would urge you to look at it because they're great problems. A lot of those problems are going to be fodder. We have released to use those for the illustrative mathematics project, so we're working with those to develop them. Some of them we can just use, and some of them have to be scaffolded in certain ways. A scaffolded problem should take a student about 10 minutes to complete. It may be scored by machine, and we're certainly being encouraged to figure out ways, but there is also the option of hand scoring it. And finally, there are unscaffolded items. These will require about 15 minutes worth of time. Oh, I forgot to say, for the scaffolded, they'll be worth 0 to 5 points. 0 to 5 points for scaffolded. For unscaffolded, they require about 15 minutes of student time. Again, student time is a funny commodity there. They'll be worth 0 to 8 points. They will tend to, but need not always, involve modeling or application of some kind. Generally be contextual, but they don't have to be. There may be some that are. If they are contextual, how do I say this? For any of these problems, what we're trying to avoid is what I would call gratuitous text. It's not just a problem with some words wrapped around it so that the kid just looks at it, pulls out the numbers, does whatever is the natural thing to do with the numbers, and goes on. I mean, those are, so can we do that? I don't know. I mean, I look at a lot of problems, and I think these aren't really story problems. They're just math problems with words. But you don't really care what the context is. It doesn't really have any effect on what you do with the problem. You see the numbers if, you know the old rule. One's bigger than the other, you divide, whatever. So we're trying to avoid things like that. We're trying, especially the scaffolded and unscaffolded problems, where there is context, to make it somehow meaningful to what we are asking students to do. Now, unscaffolded problems, the goal is maybe slightly different than you've looked at before. Because they take a lot of time, because they take persistence, and because the kids are not led through them, they will be what they're calling technically easiest. In other words, the content that is built upon, that an unscaffolded task is built upon, will be secure to the student. They will have had it earlier. They didn't just learn it last week. So you're going to go back, maybe even a couple of years. You're going to pull things together. You're going to expect the student to put the effort in making a plan and carrying it out and doing the graph or whatever. Many of these will have to be hand scored, but there aren't going to be a lot of them. And my understanding is that those are going to be emphasized in the through course assessments. Again, more about that from the people who really know Park.